Bonjour, good morning. Just want to start off with a couple of opening remarks. We are fighting right now in Parliament to make sure that Canadians living with disabilities get help. They've been completely missed throughout this pandemic, and so we fought hard to make sure that Canadians living with disabilities get some help, and that's very important. What we've been able to achieve will help the majority of Canadians living with disabilities, but there's still far too many that are being left behind. And we'll continue to fight to make sure everyone living with a disability gets the help they need. And secondly, we fought to make sure people can have jobs and that companies can keep people hired. And so that's why we fought to make some improvements to the wage subsidy. These are two really important things that will help people. And we're going to continue to push the government to do more because that's not enough. We know two of the other biggest concerns that are coming to light are one, the fact that people are worried about childcare and that COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted women. Women participation in the workforce is the lowest in 30 years. And right now, the struggle for women to get back to work is there is no childcare. And for many families, school is not also available. So between not being able to go to school for their kids and not having childcare, this is going to continue to disproportionately impact women. So we're going to continue to fight hard to make sure families can be confident that their kids are safe, that there is childcare, that there are schools to go to. So we're going to put forward ideas around how we can support provinces to deliver childcare and support provinces for funding for education. And then finally, when it comes to the current scandal around we want to see that the Prime Minister waive all cabinet confidentiality, that he appear before the Ethics Commission, and that he release all documents because Canadians need to know the truth of what happened. Donc, on a continué de pousser le gouvernement de faire plus pour les gens. Et aujourd'hui, on va continuer avec les débats, avec le projet de loi qui va finalement aider les gens qui vivent avec les handicaps. C'était un groupe de gens qui était complètement manqué par le gouvernement. Donc, on a réussi à pousser le gouvernement de livrer une aide qui va aider la majorité des gens qui vivent avec un handicap, mais il y a des autres qui restent. Donc, on va continuer de pousser le gouvernement pour livrer l'aide pour tous les gens qui vivent avec un handicap. Et deuxièmement, on a amélioré la subvention salariale pour s'assurer que plus de gens peuvent retourner au travail. C'est tellement important. On va continuer de faire ça. Avec le scandale de oui, on veut voir le gouvernement. On veut avoir des engagements que le Premier ministre se présente dans le comité, qu'il donne tous les documents qu'on a besoin et aussi qu'il laisse tomber la confidentialité avec les conversations avec le cabinet. Donc, ça, c'est aussi tellement important. Et finalement, ce n'est pas assez. Il faut aller plus loin parce qu'on sait que la COVID-19 a plus impacté les femmes. La participation des femmes dans le milieu de travail, c'est la pire dans 30 ans. Et pour régler ça, il faut faire les investissements dans les services de garde et aussi mieux financer l'éducation pour les enfants. Et c'est difficile maintenant parce que plusieurs enfants ne peuvent pas retourner à l'école et aussi il y a un grand manque d'accès aux services de garde. Donc, ce sont deux choses que, en plus qu'on va continuer de mettre la pression sur le gouvernement, d'aider et de mieux financer. Merci. I'm ready for your questions.
We'll now take questions, starting with questions on the phone. A quick reminder, one question, one follow-up per reporter. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions, commençant par les questions téléphone. Un petit rappel, une question suivie par journaliste. Operator, do we have a first question?
Thank you. Merci. Please press star one at this time. If you have a question, s'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 pour poser une question. Et la première question, the first question is from Raymond Fillon du TVA. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Merci. Bonjour, M. Singh.
Bonjour.
Le Bloc québécois demande depuis 10 jours maintenant que Justin Trudeau cède sa place à sa vice-première ministre en raison de la controverse oui dans laquelle il est impliqué. Est-ce que vous êtes du même avis qu'il devrait céder sa place?
Notre avis, c'est il faut faire trois choses ce moment. Un, c'est il faut se présenter dans le comité. Deuxièmement, il faut donné tous les documents qu'on a besoin pour savoir ce qui s'est passé. Et finalement, il y a une confidentialité de ce qui se passe dans le cabinet. Il faut la laisser tomber. Et finalement, ce n'est pas seulement une question de Premier ministre. Dans notre avis, c'est un problème avec toute la partie libérale. Donc, ce n'est pas suffisant de seulement parler du Premier ministre. Aussi, on sait que le ministre des Finances est impliqué, le chef du cabinet est aussi impliqué, plusieurs membres du Parti libéral sont impliqués. Donc, ça, c'est pourquoi l'enquête, le travail de commissaire d'éthique, c'est important, et le travail de comité, c'est important pour savoir c'est vraiment quoi le scope de ce qui s'est passé.
Si vos trois...
Pardonnez-moi, monsieur, j'ai eu une demande de répéter les mêmes choses en anglais aussi, donc je vais le faire. Et puis, votre deuxième question. The problem with what we are asking for is for the Prime Minister to show up in committee, to waive cabinet confidentiality and release all documents. But our concern is that it's not just about the Prime Minister, and it's not limited to the Prime Minister. The Finance Minister is implicated in the scandal. Because of his family member that benefit from being paid by this organization. There's an implication of the involvement of the chief of staff. There's also suggestions that more Liberal Party members are implicated. And so that's why it's so important for the Ethics Commissioner to do his work, for the committee to ask those questions, to get to the details, because it's not just about the Prime Minister. This is something that touches the entire Liberal Party. Et puis, votre follow-up?
Oui, merci. Si le gouvernement ne donne pas suite à vos trois demandes, les trois demandes que vous venez d'énumérer, allez-vous lui retirer votre confiance?
On est confiant qu'on peut pousser le gouvernement pour livrer ces choses. Je pense que les autres partis sont aussi d'accord qu'il faut que le gouvernement fasse ces trois choses. C'est essentiel. Et plus que ça, les Canadiens et Canadiennes, ils veulent savoir la vérité. Donc, c'est important, c'est essentiel que le gouvernement fasse au moins ces trois choses.
Opérateur, prochaine question.
Once again, please press star one if you have questions. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 pour toute question. La question suivante, the next question is from Catherine Levesque de la Presse canadienne. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour, M. Singh.
Bonjour.
Je veux revenir sur le fond de l'affaire du bénévolat étudiant. Comme vous savez, on est déjà rendu le 21 juillet. N'est-il pas un peu trop tard pour aider les étudiants qui espéraient faire du bénévolat ou avoir un emploi cet été? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec ça?
C'est exactement le problème. Le fait que le gouvernement a essayé de trouver la manière la plus complexe de livrer de l'aide pour les étudiants. Si le gouvernement voulait vraiment aider les étudiants, on a beaucoup des options. On peut augmenter le programme qui emploie les étudiants pendant l'été. On peut aider les étudiants avec la dette scolaire. On peut aider les étudiants avec plus de financement pour réduire le coût des frais de scolarité. Il y a plusieurs façons d'aider l'étudiant avec les programmes existants. Donc, au lieu de créer quelque chose de nouveau, on peut utiliser quelque chose qui existe maintenant et on peut l'augmenter. Si le but, c'était vraiment d'aider les étudiants, ça, c'est pourquoi on met en question cette chose que le gouvernement ne voulait pas vraiment aider les étudiants. C'était de l'aide pour les amis proches. Et on va pousser le gouvernement pour vraiment livrer l'aide pour les étudiants.
Et donc, mais n'y est-il pas trop tard pour le faire? Et ma question de suivi, c'est sur C20 qui devrait être adopté aujourd'hui. Je me demandais qu'est-ce qui s'était passé avec les mesures là, pour contrer la fraude pour la PCU. On sait que le dernier projet de loi avait des mesures en ce sens. Là, il n'y en a pas de toute évidence dans C20. Donc, je me demandais qui s'était opposé à ça et comment est-ce que vous ou d'autres partis ont réussi à convaincre le gouvernement d'enlever ces sanctions pour les fraudeurs.
OK, merci. Donc, deux questions, les sanctions et puis, est-ce que c'est trop tard? Non, ce n'est pas trop tard. Les étudiants qui travaillent maintenant avec le programme qui donne des emplois aux étudiants pendant l'été, ce programme peut continuer. On peut augmenter ce programme, on peut avoir plus de financement pour embaucher plus des étudiants. Donc, beaucoup des options qui existent. Et on peut continuer ce programme au-delà de l'été. Donc, il y a quelques options si le gouvernement voulait vraiment aider les étudiants et on va pousser le gouvernement pour faire ça parce qu'on veut aider les étudiants. Et deuxièmement, avec les sanctions, c'était une des choses pour nous qu'on a voulu enlever. C'était dans la négociation, on a dit que ce n'est pas acceptable. Il faut l'enlever. Si on veut régler les problèmes de n'importe quoi, d'un acte criminel, on a déjà des lois pour faire ça. Et ce n'est pas... c'est un problème de créer une nouvelle loi parce que ça peut-être ça va toucher les gens qui ne sont pas coupables, qui étaient encouragés par le gouvernement. Donc oui, c'était nous qui a dit que on ne peut pas aller de l'avant avec ces sanctions et le gouvernement les a enlevées.
Opérateur, prochaine question.
There are no questions registered at this time. Nous n'avons plus de questions pour le moment.
We'll take some questions from the room now. Nous allons prendre les questions dans la salle. Stephanie?
Morning, Stephanie Levitz, the Canadian
Morning.
Press. Yesterday, you were asked a question about the allegations against the Bloc Québécois leader. You made reference to, in your caucus, having recently needed to deal with the issue. Is there another incident on top of the ones involving Aaron Weir and Christiane Moore that you can disclose?
No, I was referring to those two.
Okay. And just as a follow-up, with regards to the government throughout the course of this pandemic has signed a lot of contracts for a lot of things. And a number of them are secret because they argue national security, procurement. Do you have any concerns that there are other contracts out there that were handled in a similar manner in which the cabinet should have recused themselves or should have held it differently and Canadians will never know?
Yes. The pattern of behavior here is very clear that the Liberal government, Prime Minister Trudeau, continually seem to be jumping to help out their friends and asking people that are struggling to wait. And this is an example that the more we dig, the more the evidence comes to light that there are some deep concerns about the entire scheme, that this was never about helping students. And the more we dig, the more we see deep concerns about conflict of interest, about inappropriate activities, and the fact that the government encouraged the organization to pay students less than minimum wage. This is something the government did. All these things we would not have known but for great investigative journalism and questions that we've been asking. And so there's other contracts that probably similarly where the government has helped out their close friends and has not done the right things like recusing themselves if there's a conflict of interest. This is a case where we've now got evidence of at least two major players, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, who should have recused themselves, and both didn't. How many more cases are there where this happened? We don't know. And that's why getting to the bottom of this will help us perhaps uncover other examples. It's wrong for the government, for the Liberal government, to use its power to help its friends instead of helping people.
Bonjour, M. Scheer, Louis Blouin de Radio-Canada. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous énumérer peut-être les 3 choses que vous aimeriez éclaircir dans l'affaire de l'organisme uni, des choses, des questions que vous avez qui n'ont pas été éclaircies par le gouvernement encore?
Donc, une chose, c'est complètement incompréhensible. Pourquoi un ministre des Finances, le Premier ministre, qui a des connexions claires, des connexions tellement proches avec un organisme, comment il pourrait aller de l'avant sans disant on a un problème ici, on ne peut pas être dans la décision parce qu'on a des connexions trop proches. Comment c'était possible pour le Premier ministre et pour le Finance ministre de faire quelque chose qui était clairement facile de faire? Oui, il était impliqué. On ne peut pas être dans la décision. Pourquoi ils ont fait ça? est-ce que les autres membres du cabinet savaient ça? Et s'ils savaient ça, comment est-ce qu'ils expliquent comment ils ont continué avec une situation où il y a un conflit assez clair? C'était aussi cette question entre le fait qu'ils ont utilisé cette excuse, on a demandé une question au service public et ils nous avaient donné cette réponse. Mais quand on cherche un peu plus profond, on réalise que ce n'était pas le cas. Le cas, c'était le gouvernement a vraiment créé des conditions spécifiques pour arriver à un choix. Ce n'était pas le cas que le service public a vraiment eu la chance de donner toutes les options. Ils étaient forcés et ils utilisent le service public pour expliquer tout ça. Il y a plusieurs questions qui soulèvent les autres, mais ce sont les grandes trois questions, je pense, de mon avis, il doit chercher plus profond pour trouver les autres questions.
On est en pleine pandémie, on est en plein été. C'est une histoire qui fait grand bruit au Parlement. Mais pensez-vous que ça intéresse les Canadiens actuellement, cette histoire-là, et que, en tout cas, que ça a autant d'importance peut-être aux yeux de la population en général que ça peut en avoir ici au Parlement? C'est quoi votre lecture de la situation?
Je pense que les gens ont peur pour l'avenir. Les gens ont peur pour le fait qu'ils ne peuvent pas trouver un emploi. La pandémie crée beaucoup d'insécurité, de précarité. Donc, je pense que ça, c'est primordial dans les pensées des gens. Mais en même temps, quand on fait face à un grand défi comme ça, les gens ont besoin de confiance dans le gouvernement. Et cet scandale met en question la confiance dans le gouvernement. Et à cause du fait qu'on est dans un gouvernement minoritaire, ça nous donne le pouvoir de poser ces questions, de trouver la vérité, de forcer les témoignages dans les comités. C'est grâce à ça qu'on peut essayer de retourner la confiance dans l'institut du gouvernement en général, mais on peut montrer que ce gouvernement libéral ne fait pas ce qu'il faut sans être poussé par nous, les néo-démocrates, parce que s'ils étaient dans une position de pouvoir majoritaire, pensez-vous, qu'est-ce qu'ils auraient pu faire? Donc, je pense que c'est grâce à le fait qu'on est dans un gouvernement minoritaire avec un parti néo-démocrate fortement là pour les gens, qui militent toujours pour les gens et pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde, qu'on on a réussi à avancer des programmes qui aident les gens. OK. Kind of went on a bit there on that one. I think people are worried about their jobs. They're worried about their future. In a pandemic, people are worried about what's going to come next. So that, I think, is the biggest concern that people are struggling with. But to deal with all these concerns, not having a job, the future, a pandemic, people need to have confidence in their government. And what this scandal has done is really rocked the confidence of people in a government that doesn't seem to be acting for the interest of people, but to help out their close friends. And I think it's only because we're in a minority government that we are able to bring these things to light, that we were able to push the Liberal government to deliver better for people. Imagine we were in a majority government, the Liberal government would have just continued to benefit their powerful friends and ignore people. And we've been able to push them. You know, a strong New Democrat Party has been able to push the government to deliver better for people, to deliver more help to people that they otherwise would not have done. And they would have done more of these types of scandals where they're helping their close friends instead of the people that need it. So I think that's why it's so important to continue with the questions and the ethics committee work and the ethics commissioner's investigation. These are all important things to restore confidence in the institute of government generally, but to point out that the Liberal government is not doing what people need without the fact that New Democrats are there to push them.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Rachel Haynes from CTV National News.
Hi.
I'd like to go off what you're saying about the minority government giving you power to ask these kinds of questions, because the minority government situation also means that parties need to continue to support the government in order to uphold the House. Nobody would want a federal election to happen right now. So given that dynamic of a minority government as well, what makes you think that the Liberals will actually answer these questions when they know that the opposition parties will continue to support them in the House?
Well, one of the reasons is because we have the majority on committee. Just something as simple as that, we can actually vote to have witnesses show up. The government can't pass bills without support from other parties. So that doesn't give, so being in a minority situation, it gives us a powerful check and balance on a Liberal Party, which is showing more and more that they're interested in helping their powerful friends instead of helping people. Because we're in a minority, they can't just do that. We are able to stop initiatives. We're able to pull back support from bills. And so this is a good opportunity for us because there's a new Democratic Party there that has fought all along for people. We've now seen the results of that. People have been helped more. But if we were not in a majority, or if we were not in a minority situation, in a majority situation, we wouldn't have had the power to force witnesses to come before committee to vote on that, to hold back support from bills so that they didn't go forward. For example, there were sanctions that were going to be in the new CERB legislation. We pulled that away. We said that's not good. We were able to fight for Canadians living with disabilities to get support for them. We were able to fight to change the help to workers so they could stay employed at their companies. These are all things we were able to do because we had the power given to us by Canadians to be able to push back.
And do you think that the committee and even the ethics commissioner at this point have enough teeth to prevent any further scandals from happening, given how many times we have seen this happen to this prime minister?
I don't think the ethics commissioner or the committee has the power to prevent it. I think what the power is to expose it. And once exposed, then we can use that to help us try to prevent it in the future. But really the power that we have now is to expose what they've done, and the hopes that by learning what they've done, we can figure out ways to stop the Liberal government from doing this type of thing in the future. And really the power rests in the hands of Canadians. If they want to have help to people, we've shown it again and again. We are there for people. We've fought for people living with disabilities, fought for people who've lost their job, fought for students who didn't have any help. We fought for them. And if that's what Canadians want, they have that choice as well.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions on some other topics.
Sure.
Are you going to join Premier John Horgan, the BC Premier, in calling on the Prime Minister to formally decriminalize simple possession of illicit drugs?
Yes, it's a part of our party platform in the last campaign. It's something that I spoke about numerous times throughout my leadership. There is no reason why someone who is in personal possession of a controlled substance should be faced with criminal sanctions. These are people dealing with poverty, dealing with mental health, dealing with addiction. They need health care, not a criminal response.
Okay. And just on the other topic of electronic voting, where does your party stand on that? And what are we losing by not having Parliament sit and all members having the opportunity to vote, whether in person or electronically?
I'm open to, and as a party, we're open to looking at technology as a way to increase democracy and increase participation. So I'm open to hearing the results of the work that the committee is doing on assessing how we can do that. So I'm open to that, and I think it's important to look at ways to use technology to advance democracy. And when it comes to the current format, I think what we've been able to achieve with the hybrid parliament is exactly that, the participation of more members of parliament, those who were worried about their communities and the rate of infection and didn't want to risk traveling back and forth to Ottawa, which has been identified because of the fact that lots of MPs come together as a potential hotspot. So I think that measure has allowed for more MPs to participate, which is good. It has allowed for people to participate who might have problems because of the lack of childcare for young families. It gives more opportunity for members of parliament who can now participate and take care of their children. So I think it's a good thing that we've got the hybrid model. But the question about voting, I think this is something that we still have to answer. This is an unanswered question. One of the problems with the hybrid solution, it hasn't fixed everything. There is still a question about ensuring that every member can vote. And that's why I think the ongoing work of the committee is important to figure out a way for us to be able to achieve that. So I think that's a fair question and something that we need to solve.
One last time, is there any more question on the phone?
Yes, the next question, la question suivante est de Terry Davidson du Lawyers Daily. La parole est à vous. Please go ahead.
Well, Mr. Singh, if you've addressed this already, I apologize, but the Conservatives have called for a criminal probe into the WE issue. Is the NDP going to call for that as well?
Well, we've called for something really specific right now, which is the waiving of cabinet confidentiality, making sure that cabinet confidentiality is waived so that we can hear from cabinet and hear from the evidence that what happened in that decision, how that went down, and did cabinet know about the connections with the Trudeau family and Prime Minister Trudeau and the organization. We want to make sure that the Prime Minister appears before committee, and finally we want to make sure that all documents are released. If there's evidence that the police services can use for a criminal investigation, they should do so. We're not specifically calling for that, but if there's evidence, they absolutely should. What we're calling for is really a full transparency. We want to know what happened. Canadians want to know what happened and how this could have happened. Something as obvious as family connections to an organization to receive nearly $1 billion contract clearly cries out conflict of interest. Why didn't the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister, for that effect, recuse themselves, step back from that decision, knowing that there's this clearly obvious conflict of interest? These are questions that we need answered so that we can get to the bottom of this and maybe uncover if this has happened in other cases.
Follow up?
Thank you. Oh, no, that's fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
This concludes the press conference. Ici met fin à la conférence de presse. Merci.
Merci, thank you.